Okay, great. Now we're in class 4. We're going to talk about the mission statement. And what we're going to do now is we're going to build on the first 3 classes to create a very powerful tool for you to build, really your life on. And what we're going to do is take the components of your flow, those active ingredients of flow, and we're going to take those active ingredients of meaning, and you're going to put them together into a mission statement. So you're going to complete this statement: my mission in life is to do such and such, or the purpose of my life is, and finish that sentence using the flow points and using the meaning points. And what you want to be really careful as you're constructing this is to be aware of those external values that you've come up with. Those external values should not be a part of this mission statement. And the mission statement now becomes this new measuring stick that you have in your life that you make decisions based on. A lot of people are making decisions based on a little bit of internal values, of core values, some of the flow meaning values, and external values. And so sometimes their decisions work out for them, sometimes the decisions don't work out for them. Some of their goals are fulfilling, some are not. There is no decision-making process. There's no decision-making matrix that they have to help them make decisions that is designed to lead them towards their own happiness. A lot of it is based on subconscious and external values. And so what the mission statement is this new guide that you will develop using your flow and using your meaning that will help you get to where it is you want to get to in your life. And by having this down on paper, the research shows us it makes anything we put down on paper becomes all that much more likely to happen. And they've done research on people coming out of college who've written down goals and compared their success to those who didn't. It's a world of difference. So to have this down on paper as your mission statement, it's going to be abstract. It doesn't have specifics. So my friend, the poker player, would not have to be the world's best poker player. Rather, he's going to take those core values that he's identified of connection and of using his analytical thinking to help other people as the basis for his mission statement. And he may use it exactly like that. It may be designed just like that for a lot of people. The equation for our mission statement is to use my flow, which are my gifts, the things that I really love, my passions, to create some kind of change in the world that are consistent with my meaning, with my deepest values. And so for the poker player, it would be probably some version of to use my connection, my ability to connect with people and my analytical thought to help other people, or maybe even bigger, to help mankind. This is not something that you're going to put on a t-shirt necessarily and have other people look at it and give their opinions and judgments. This is for your own mind. It has to be inspirational, motivational to you, and it may be something that you never really verbalize all that openly. I know that I had a lot of difficulty personally going around and sharing my mission statement with people, because what happens is now they're going to interpret it using their understandings of what those words mean to them, and to me it would lose that meaning. So rather than going around telling everyone about what my mission statement is, I try to design a life that's consistent with that, and you can figure out what my mission statement is. So this really has nothing to do with, I'd like to see you kind of cut out that voice in your mind that says, what would other people think about this mission statement? And really answer the question of, what do you think about this mission statement? Does this inspire you? Does this seem like it would be the right direction for you to take, that when you're old and gray, you look back in your life and say, that was worthwhile. I'm so glad I lived a life that was consistent with that mission statement. And so that's what we're looking for here for you to do in this exercise. Really hone in on your values, really hone in on what makes you flow, really hone in on what gives you a sense of meaning, really bring all of those to a forefront into one mission statement. The mission statements are often one sentence, sometimes 2 sentences, but they're short, they're brief. Your flow should be in there, your meaning should be in there, and when you look at it, it really brings it home for you. This is what it's all about, and truthfully, nothing else matters, to quote Metallica. Nothing else matters. This is it. This is what you're all about. If you have a decision come up in your life, you have a very simple way of deciding should you move forward with it. Is this going to get me further with my mission, or is this going to be stagnant with my mission, or even pull me backwards? You can look at every little decision that comes up in your life and say, is this moving me forward? Go for it. Move forward with courage. It's difficult. You may find that there's a little bit of opposition as you move forward in your mission. And people who have high levels of happiness, people of high levels of inner peace, are courageous people. They have become quite independent of what other people think about them. They've also become quite independent of any specific outcome in their life. It's not about achieving something, it's about being consistent with my mission. Are you living a life that's consistent with your mission? So before we move forward into actually doing this, I want to see if you guys have any questions about this.
What if when we really think about this, we have two missions? Is that legitimate? Should we just have one? Is it compatible?
So the question is, what do I do if I have two missions? And so they're coming from different values, from different flow points, from different meaning points. Yeah, and I would say that this is going to become your new mantra, okay? The Guru gives you one mantra. Put it into, if you can, put it all into one mantra. If it's got a professional piece and it's got a personal piece, find a way to bring the two together. Again, this may be something you want to work with a friend on, someone that you really trust, or perhaps a life coach, someone like that, to really hone in the wording. Some people are really good at, at word tasks. They're very verbally, oriented, and they're able to take all of these things and put them into nice packages. Some people have a lot of trouble with that. And so if you have trouble, kind of putting things into these nice packages, you may want to make it a little bit more simple. And that's why I have this equation that I use for people who, it's not very flowery, excuse me, but it's very effective. What are my flow points? And what are my meaning points? And how can I use my flow, my talents, my gifts, my passion to fulfill my meaning? And there may be a way that you can put the two together, but if it's two mission statements, it's much better than what most people have, which is 0 mission statements. Any other questions?
Is it better to be more vague, or should you be more specific?
It's a good question. So the question is, should I be more vague or more specific? Should I err on the side of being more vague with it or more specific? And I think that the problem with being too vague is it's not inspirational. The problem with being too specific is you're narrowing yourself. So now I can only accomplish, something that's in this smaller, very specific, detail-oriented realm. The next exercise we're going to do is goals. We're going to get really specific with your mission statement. So the key for the mission statement right now is that it's inspirational to you. I want, when you look at it, that it creates an emotional impact in you. And then you have a mission statement that really hits those points that you need it to. It won't have the specifics. We're not dealing with how you're going to actually materialize these things in your life yet. That's the next exercise. Right now, this is the big picture. When a company has a mission statement on the wall, it doesn't have the specifics. It has the principles. It has the bigger guiding post. So I would err on kind of, I would not err actually. I would try to get it somewhere in the middle there. It's not specific because you're going to do that later, but it's also not vague because if it's too vague, it's not inspirational. If you're really hitting on your flow points, your meaning points, it's going to be really inspirational for you. Any other questions? All right. Get to it. If any other questions come up, feel free to ask. All right, so we have some questions on doing the mission statement. So I'm going to go through these questions. The first question is, so you're writing this mission statement based on all these different points. They're actually core values, your flow values, your meaning values. But what happens if you have so many core values? You have so many flow values, so many meaning points. These are all different kinds of core values, that it's hard to pack that all into a mission statement. And so one of the important processes that I've mentioned before is to create a hierarchy of values. Okay, so you're going to look at, if your list is too long, what I'm most interested in, there's the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of your benefit is going to come from 20% of what it is that you're focusing on. So what we want to look at is all of these values, and we had a pie chart. Which top 2 values that you have on this list of flow or meaning are going to account for 80% of your happiness? And that's why I always talk about, in some of my other classes, seminars, talk about 2 words, because I think we can narrow all these things down into 2 words. Give me your top 2 flow points. Give me the top 2 things that make you flow. Give me the top 2 things that give you a sense of meaning, and now package that into a mission statement. So people say, well, how do I narrow it down to top 2? So one of the exercises I do with people when I'm working with them individually is we look at all of the values they've narrowed down. Sometimes it's as many as 10 core values, 10 things that make them flow or give them meaning. And I say, imagine you can only have 5 of those. Okay? You only can have 5 of these things, so you have to cross off 5. So they do the work, they have to cross off 5, now they're left with 5. If they had to choose out of the 10, they would choose these 5. And I say, well, okay, great, now imagine you can only have 4. Oh, okay, I got to get rid of one of these things, cross out 4, 3, 2, 1. If you can only have one of these, which would you choose? Okay, now let's backtrack. You've just told me what the number 1 most important thing for you is in terms of flow, what the number 1 thing is for you in terms of meaning. You've also told me what the number 2 is. It's the one you crossed out next to last. So now we have the top 2 flow, the top 2 meaning. Take those, package them into the mission statement. Another question we had was, okay, this is great. I figured out what my flow values are. I figured out what my meaning values are. Now I've packaged it into a mission statement. It's inspirational to me. It's the opposite of my external values. It's nothing to do with my external values, but I'm just not emotionally feeling connected to my mission statement as much as I still feel connected to my external values. And one of the things to understand is this is conditioning. This is the way the brain works. If you do something over and over and over and over again, you become conditioned to that. So if I connect myself emotionally to these external values for years at a time, if I measure my self-esteem, I measure my worth as a human being, I measure my success based on these external values, and I'm emotionally connected to them, that means I've done that hundreds of times a day for years. Okay? So this is not something that's going to be quick. This is going to be something, yes, you will have a quick emotional response to seeing your mission statement, but it's going to be a lot of work now to start shifting what you're emotionally connected to being your core values, being flow, being meaning, being your mission statement. And we're going to work on this a little bit further on, is different techniques, different exercises you can use to make sure these become inculcated into your new way of thinking. 2 quick things I would want to, just throw out there is, one recommendation is write your mission statement down on a piece of paper and read it right before you go to bed at night. Because a lot of the things we're trying to target are coming from your subconscious. A lot of the things that give you meaning, give you flow, that's coming from your subconscious, and your external values are all programmed into your subconscious. So if you can read this right before you go to bed, that's the last thing your mind has processed right before you go to bed. So you'll have all that benefit from your sleep to review this mission statement. That's A. And then B is to start carrying it around with you and maybe checking in on it. We're going to talk about this more in one of the upcoming classes, is to put it down on a piece of paper and check how you're doing with your mission statement on a daily basis. What this does is it becomes the new thing that you're caring about. It becomes the new thing that you're measuring your success based on, that you're making decisions based on, that you're measuring your value, your self-esteem based on. How am I doing in terms of my mission statement? Check in with that. We'll talk more about later on. The last question we had was, as I mentioned before, people sometimes have trouble working these concepts into words. And sometimes people do this work and they get different words at different times. They come up with different words and they all kind of match. And my response to that is it really ultimately doesn't matter so much what words you choose. What matters is that it represents the essence of the concept for you. So if you're using the word relationship, or you're using the word connection, or you're using the word closeness, what matters is that that essence is there for you. So you want to choose the one that most closely matches your essence, and now start programming your brain to use that as your new way of making decisions. Become more connected with that. Start having more emotional experiences of closeness in your life, and you're going to start becoming more aligned with that. The external values will start becoming less and less important to you. You'll be becoming more and more removed from them and more connected with what actually deeply satisfies. This reminds me of people who, have been drinking cheap wine for many years, and so that tastes good to them, and then all of a sudden someone introduces them to really high quality wine. So the first taste, they're like, oh, what is this? Their palate has not been trained to appreciate the higher quality wine, so they almost initially reject it. You may find that that's your experience with your mission statement at first. Is your mind is kind of like, whoa, this is like a foreign object in my mind. Even though it seems so familiar, it seems so close to me. And, just like people with wine, you got to train yourself, work on it a little bit, kind of distance yourself from the garbage wine, start enjoying, hang out with people that really appreciate wine. They can teach you about the subtleties of fine wine. And you'll notice as you start enjoying that new flavor, you start enjoying that higher quality wine, and you have a little sip of the old stuff, your $5 wine, you'll spit it out. It's gross. Your palate has now become more subtle. Your palate has become trained to appreciate the subtleties here. Your flow, your meaning, your mission statement, these are really subtle concepts, but they're really satisfying to you when you really get aligned with it. And you're going to start, those external values may come back from time and again, at first more, as you get better and better at aligning yourself with your core values, with your flow, your meaning, your mission statement, less and less. But they'll come up. It'll be so much easier for you to kind of just put them aside and say, oh, I don't care about that. I don't really care about having everybody think I'm the cheese. I want to do what really is important to me. I don't really care about other people's judgments. I don't really care about competition of having more or less than other people. None of that really matters in terms of my mission. And I start becoming more and more distance from that. They become less and less important. So thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next class.